everything that I know says I gotta go.
Now we're live.
But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is. This is who I am. This is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to grow. I'm not the one with two star hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
Yep. Hey, yeah, you know, it's funny. I have to tell you, it's so good sometimes when you rekindle old acquaintances. And one of those is a guy named Jim Kay. Yeah. Not Mark Kay, Jim Kay.
Yeah.
And he's a little further south in Florida from Mark Kay. Mark Kay is in
Orlando.
No, he's up in Jacksonville.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's Jacksonville.
Oh.
And Jim is down in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
But Palm Beach. But anyway, so but Jim, it's an interesting thing. Jim used to be the road manager for Resurrection Band, to some of the old school.
Oh, yeah.
But Res Band, he was the road manager for them. And when they came to Amsterdam, and I was with Youth with a Mission, YWAM at the time.
Yeah.
And officially it was Musicians for Missions was our division of YWAM. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Jim, he met us, and that was, I think I told you, did I tell you the story about how we got barred from doing stuff in Amsterdam?
I think you had a concert in Town Square.
Right, in the stock market, in front of the stock market.
Okay, is this that story?
Yeah, and so anyway, and Jim was the one who set it up with me.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so anyway.
Wendy and Glenn Kaiser screaming their ears out.
Oh, yeah, and, you know, in the rain, and, you know, I was afraid they were going to get electrocuted. The least of my worries was shutting down the Dutch stock market, you know, in Amsterdam. But anyway, but Jim was so moved by our ministry, he left JPUSA, Jesus People USA, and Res Band, and joined YWAM.
How about that?
But he went to Hong Kong.
Okay.
He went east. We were there in Europe, and he went to serve, and he ended there 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah. My wife and I, we were there 12 in Europe, but Jim went for 14 years with Youth with a Mission in Hong Kong, over in Asia.
Yeah.
And then ended up getting married over there. He has an Asian wife. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he now is in Florida, and he's pastoring a church.
How about that?
I know, isn't that? I mean, but it just warms my heart to, you know, to see things that, you know, I was a part of.
Yeah.
But he was so moved by what he saw YWAM doing that he decided to become a missionary himself, a missionary in China, basically, and
I had no idea.
In Hong Kong.
You and I both have JPUSA friends. Mm-hmm. And this Christmas I was Debbie and I were having dinner with a couple. He had been a childhood friend.
Right.
And we announced our wedding date, Debbie and I did, August 27th, 83. And a week later, Pat and Tammy picked the same date. And we're like, what do you think you're doing? And I snagged the same circle of friends. I snagged all of them were in our wedding party. And so none of them got to go to his wedding.
You rat.
But he said that was the only Saturday I could get Glenn Kaiser because I wanted him to do the ceremony.
So he got Glenn and you got the friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, who won out on that deal? No, I know. No, it was fun. You know, it's interesting because I know Glenn, Wendy, and John Heron, Wendy's brother, and Glenn's brother-in-law. And I loved their ministry, and they were just wonderful people. I mean, just really nice down. As well as Servant. Do you remember Servant?
Oh, yes. I went to one of their concerts here in town.
Yeah. I mean, Servant was just unbelievable, you know. Servant, in fact, launched, I think we may have talked about it, launched Petra and DeGarmo and Key.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Petra and DeGarmo and Key opened for Servant. And then what happened towards the middle of the tour, Servant said, hey, why don't you guys go ahead and headline? We'll open for you. Because they recognized how good they were.
Oh, yeah. Petra really came on strong.
Yeah, and so that's what launched Petra, though, was the Servant tour.
How about that?
Same with DeGarmo and Key. And I remember talking to the D&K guys, DeGarmo and Key, and them saying it was the weirdest thing they've ever seen, that no group, no band in history will ever relinquish that headlining role. In fact, there were arguments made with management and agents who will headline. You know, if you have two groups that think they're, big top-notch material, they always fight over who gets the headline, who gets the top billing to finish the night. And I remember wrestling with that sometimes if I had a festival or a big event.
Right.
Who gets to be the headliner?
Yeah, now that's when you as a promoter put together an event.
Right.
What's been going on lately, according to my son, who spent a lot of time in the music industry, is that when a band gets a particular stature, they put together their own tour.
Right, that's true. That is true, yeah.
Like, we were at a concert in Daytona, Project 429. This is about 15 years ago, 20. And there was a new band called 33 Miles that was opening up for him. And I said, never heard of them. And Jonathan said, no. 33 Miles paid to get on there.
Right, yeah.
When you're the headliner, everything's at a price nowadays.
Yeah.
Wasn't so much that way 30 years ago.
No. 30, 40 years ago, in fact, I told you, I think we're second chapter of Acts, who became, they're like one of the legends of contemporary Christian music. They sang for us in a living room that was about the size of my office here.
Oh, yeah.
And they stood in the corner, Barry McGuire with the second chapter backing him up, and then they would do their little solo thing. No mics or anything. It was just guys, him and a guitar and them standing there singing. And then, they would sleep in your home. Yeah. They would sleep or on your floor.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I remember Benny Hester. You remember Benny Hester?
Oh, yeah.
Man, they were, pretty big at that time. And Benny was a little bitty short guy.
Yeah.
And he slept in my daughter's bed, stuff like that.
Oh, you better clarify that.
Without my daughter.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, my daughter, no, the reason I'm saying she had this like baby dog. My daughter was.
Oh, geez.
My daughter's like,
pink
my daughter's like 7 years old.
Yeah.
In fact, she wasn't even that. Now I think about it. She was like 3 years old, but she had this little pink baby doll bed. With a canopy and the whole, and there's Benny. I wish I'd have taken.
Oh God, you should have come in middle of the night.
Take a picture, to blackmail him for the rest of his life. Benny Hester asleep in this little doll bed, But anyway,
this week you put up a picture on Facebook, said, "What group is this?" I said, "It's the Huff Kids." I don't know who those other people are. It was DC Talk.
yeah, DC Talk. We were on tour with them, and my kids. I got a picture of DC, and my kids with them, and all. And my daughter didn't look happy. I don't know what.
No, she wasn't.
No, she was. That was how she used to be. She was never happy.
Oh.
In fact, I have to tell you this funny story. So, because I was doing all these tours and setting up these concerts in these big venues, and so I got to know the secular tour promoters, and so I became friends with this big guy who did these big tours, and so he brought in New Kids on the Block when New Kids was like the big time.
Yeah.
So he invited me to come to Stuttgart and bring because I said my daughter's this big fan, and she had seen them in Munich, Germany, but she was like way back, in the crowd. So he said, well, bring her to Stuttgart. And so we got there early. And so we're backstage. We got there early. And so, we're behind the stage sitting on a forklift or something. And she and I, when they come in, I think, did I tell you this story?
That doesn't sound familiar.
Okay. It was not a good thing. Let's put it that way, especially Donnie Wall. Oh, it was not good. In fact, it got my daughter over New Kids on the Block.
Okay.
But anyway, I hope and I assume he's changed some now. But anyway, I won't go into all the details because it doesn't really matter. But anyway, so anyway, as we're leaving, finally my daughter's out. They did put her, one of the crew guys there, say, "Come, little one, we put you up front." She was like 11 years old.
Yeah.
So we'll put you in the front. And, you know, I don't know if you know how European concerts are. There are no seats. It's all standing room.
Oh, yeah. That's become more popular here.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot more fun. It's a lot. I mean, you know, you'll take a place that seats 200 or 300 and put 1,100 people in.
Yes.
Because they're all
It's a dollars and cents thing.
Yeah. Well, no, but it's just the atmosphere is so much different.
Yeah, it is. But I'm saying the promoter side. If you can sell 3 times the tickets.
Right, but that's not really why they do it. That's not it's just that's what the people expect. In fact, I didn't know that early, so we had it in, like, we put chairs in, and people were standing on them and throwing them out of the way. It just, they just don't like it. They want to be, and they jump, you know, and do all this stuff.
Yeah, the mosh pit.
Well, no, I mean, just standing there, there's no moshing, and then maybe if it's a heavier deal, they'll start a little mosh pit over on the side or something. But anyway, so they put my daughter, you know, right up on the front at the barriers, right in front of the stage. Well, they saw that she was getting crushed by all of these people, so they got her out of there, brought her back. They said, "Oh no, she can't be up there," you know. Yeah. And so then they put her up on the side, and I'm taking pictures and stuff. So then she said, "Dad, I'm ready. We can go." I said, "Okay." So we decided to leave. It wasn't the experience she hoped for.
No.
And me, I could care less because after a while, you know, I didn't care anymore.
Well, yeah, and you think how many thousands of girls wish they were your daughter?
Oh yeah, just they're all screaming and going crazy.
Yeah.
So we're walking out. As we're walking out, who walks out? You know, a little behind us, Mark Wahlberg. It was Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. They were opening for New Kids.
This was before his Hollywood days.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was just getting started. But he was, you know, rapping hip hop guy.
Yeah.
And you know, and he wasn't that big at the time, but he was opening up. He was just like 17, 18 years old. And so anyway, so we're walking out, and there's Mark walking just by himself. And so I said, "Oh, hey, Mark, can you do me? Can I get a picture of you and my daughter?" He said, "Yeah, man, sure." So I turn around, my daughter's gone.
Oh God.
She had run around the corner. And so the guy who was with me, who got us there, he's up there. I see around the corner. All you see is him pulling in her arm, and he's, "Come on." And she, no. And you know, and he said, "Oh, sweetheart, it's okay." And she would not come out, and so I finally got him to sign this little napkin or something to her, you know.
Isn't that something?
And now it would have been something that she could have kept, you know, this photo of her with Mark Wahlberg, you know, but at the time she did not want her.
How about that?
She was so shy. I mean, my daughter, total transfer, you know, and I think I told you later on, she ends up being nanny for Mariah Carey. You know, she's flying around the country with Mariah Carey, and she's with Patricia Heaton and all these other stars, you know, the Bushes. And it's just so funny how stuff turns out with all these, you know, she hangs out with all these Hollywood people all the time.
Yeah.
But back then, she wanted nothing to do with it. It was just weird, you know. It's just weird how things turn out in life, and sometimes that's how it works out. When you try to, you don't want anything to do with something, you end up in that world.
But could you not say that environment that you gave her the rare opportunity for helped her to find a balance? That these are just regular people, and they want to be treated like a regular person. Yeah,
that's true. Because the one thing about our kids, they grew up to where they're not impressed by anybody. Yeah. Nobody impresses them. You know, and I'm that way. You know, of course, because of being in that scene. In fact, you know, I'm more put off by.
Senator Mark Wayne Mullen stays in touch with him, I mean, it's that kind of thing. There's a whole list of people.
Yeah, when I met Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, he was Mark Wayne Mullen, the plumber.
Joe Plumber, yes.
So it was, but yeah, those things happen though, and and even my son, we worked on Senator Coburn's campaign. Mm-hmm. When he first ran for Congress, very first time, and I became really actually good friends with his chief of staff who was here through my son, who happened to help one summer.
Carl
when he was
Algren, I think.
No. This was his Washington D.C. chief of staff.
Okay, yeah. Carl stayed here. Yeah,
Carl was here, and actually at that time, Carl wasn't even working for him. Carl didn't join him until he ran for Senate. Carl was still with what's the big group.
Well, Strategies is Algren and Holland.
Right. Yeah. And then he left and
no. You're right.
Coburn
actually, his first campaign manager or consultant was Fount Holland, Carl's partner.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Carl left, and then Carl actually joined him in D.C. Later and became actually on his staff. And Carl's a good guy. I don't have any problems with Carl. Mm-hmm. Carl's a good man, I think. I think he's gotten some of the bad rep for being with.
He's had to pioneer his own path,
right,
and has done things that no other Republican campaign consultant has,
right.
And it's
he was tainted by Fount Holland for a while because Fount Holland had such a bad reputation that. And he was associated with that for a while, and I think it was a good thing that he left them. So
Fount got indicted, and that kind of broke up Strategies because Trevor Worthen and Carl Algren, they all did their own thing. But it's an interesting deal, and
we've just slid right over from the entertainment to the political world, haven't we? It's funny how smoothly that transition.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the deal, which I don't even remember what the deal was, how we got on that. Oh, that you talked about that picture with the DC talk and all that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's how all of that happened, going back to the original thing.
I wanted to say something that my oldest son, who's gotten only about, he's had a little different reaction than your daughter has. My son's become very cynical about the whole PR game. In the images, in that they now pay these PR firms to create an image.
Oh, but see that you say now that has always been going on in the secular world. Mm-hmm. It's just the Christian world caught up to it.
Yeah.
And who started that? You know how that started?
No, tell me.
Amy Grant's.
Oh,
people.
Blanton Harrell.
Harrell.
Yeah.
I remember when, Blanton and Harrell started with the Gaithers. Amy started touring with the Gaithers.
Yes.
And Blanton and Harrell were doing booking for and PR for the Gaithers. Mm-hmm. And then at a certain point when she hit they decided we're going to go ahead and start our own thing with Amy. And I think they were buddies at Belmont. They studied marketing or business, music or something at Belmont University. No, I'm sorry. Abilene Christian. Maybe one was at Abilene and one was at Belmont, or they were both at Abilene Christian or something. But anyway, then they took what they did and started their own thing. And next thing you knew, they created this machine. It was Amy, Michael W. Smith, and they started their whole enterprise.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I'm just going to have to say, of all of the tours and groups and individuals and things I ever worked with, the Amy Grant tour, the week I spent on that thing was the worst week I ever spent in my life.
In your life? You aren't even qualifying that. You're saying your whole life.
Well, in my whole Christian music involvement.
Oh, professionally.
Professionally. Tough. Yeah. And what's so weird here, it made me angry later because I also toured for like 2 weeks with Stryper. Mm-hmm. And then when we came back to America, I saw what they did to Stryper.
Yeah.
The music and the Christian music and booksellers and everything. Yeah. They basically crucified Stryper for nothing. Yeah. Innuendo. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. One of their guys was going through some stuff and they were working with it, but they basically killed the music industry. The Christian music industry killed Stryper. Mm-hmm. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, he was a threat.
It was ridiculous, and I'll tell you, looking back, why it was, they didn't play the game.
That's right.
To go with the Christian music industry, they were with RCA, Hollywood Records, instead of your Jewish-owned Christian music label.
Yes, that's exactly it. So this buddy of mine from Japuza, we were having dinner this last Christmas, and we were talking about, the summer of '85. Debbie and I had been married a year and a half, and a bunch of our friends all decided to meet at Cornerstone, the big music festival at Grays Lake, just north of Chicago. And my friend Pat was part of the team that was the production team putting that whole thing on. And I said, I followed the lineup of artists for several years. I said, I don't think it got better than the '85 festival. And he said, and I said, yeah, Kerry Livgren with AD was there. He says, oh yeah. He says, that was the only secular band we ever had. And I looked at him, I said, secular? He bought the lie that your Christianity is determined by what label owns you. And that's exactly what they did to Michael Sweet and Stryper.
Yeah.
You didn't play the game. You went off the plantation, kind of like the sports world did to Tim Gill. Mm-hmm. You went to somebody who wasn't one of our approved list.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy. It's like, if you belong to the club, you can do whatever you want.
Oh, yeah.
For example, for say Stryper, they had rumors that they were having girls go on their bus.
Rumors.
Or in their dressing room or whatever, yeah. And I will have to tell you, we toured, for that whole 2 weeks through Germany, Holland.
Yeah.
And they were like the most gentle, peaceful, God-loving guy. I mean, seriously, I sit there and talk with them, And
this is the Netherlands.
In fact, I felt bad because they're what they would do to the secret. One of the secrets is to get the big voices, they all had tracks running to fill tracks. Mm-hmm. And so to get this big vocal sound.
Kind of like Ashley Simpson got burned on SNL.
Well, no, she was singing. No, she was actually, that was overdone. She was actually lip syncing. No, I'm telling you, these were fill tracks, like additional voices.
Right.
To make it sound like you got these.
Right, the resonance. So ABBA, Beatles, they all did it.
Right. It was a lot harder in those days.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't have the digital.
It was not digital, yeah.
But anyway, one of the guys who ran that, one night he came to and I had there was this Christian t-shirt company, real popular, had the coolest, greatest t-shirts. Mm-hmm. And I had this one of Jesus crucified. It just showed part of his face looking this way, and you might know it.
Remember that one?
With his arm crucified with the nail through it.
Oh, God, yeah. Very well done graphic.
Right. And this guy came one night and asked me, would I be willing to trade my T-shirt for a Stryper sweatshirt? Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, sure. I gave it to him.
Sweatshirts, that's an upgrade.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, but that's how much he liked this T-shirt.
Right.
So, but and we would pray. I mean, they would pray all the time, you know.
Yeah.
And I think I told you the Hollywood Records sent these girls
Yeah.
to take us out in Amsterdam to have a good time. And you know, we went across. We were at the Leidseplein, which is like the Piccadilly Circus of Amsterdam instead of London.
Yeah.
And we went to this Indian restaurant to eat, and after we went to the hotel. And the guys just wanted to go back upstairs and call their wives and hang out. And so the girl said, well, okay, we'll be down here. And so I thought I'd go back down around 10 o'clock at night or 10:30, you know, and see. And the two girls were there with their heads like this at the bar by themselves. The guys never showed up. Eventually the girls had to go home because, you know, these were a bunch of Jesus freak duds.
Straight-laced boys.
And, you know, and they told me the deal. Timothy Gaines, the bass player, he was going through a period where he was, you know, I don't know if you want to say struggling with his faith, but he was having, and is he the only one?
I know.
Yeah. And
why can't he be like Chuck Girard, you know?
Yeah. Well, even Chuck, I had time with Chuck. And Chuck,
I know, Chuck confessed his infidelities.
Well,
I mean,
you know what? But you know what? And then there's this other group. You remember Mary? Did you know who Michael is? It what's his name that did that? Mary, did you know? Mary, did
wasn't
you
Michael
know?
English, was it?
Yes, Michael English. Well, Michael English had the affair with a girl from this other group.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that killed that whole deal was that she happened to get pregnant. And they instantly kicked him out of the whole Christian club.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was just like persona non grata.
Yeah, the next summer, Debbie and I ran into him.
Oh, yeah, I think
and his tour bus at a truck stop.
Yeah.
And his daughter was like 16, 17. His whole family's touring with him.
Right. And so...
this was in Virginia or Tennessee, I forget where.
Well, but the other group that the young lady was with, I think she ended up leaving the group, but...
Yeah, wasn't that the one with Marty McCall?
Yeah. I wasn't gonna name the group, but anyway, but they continued,
right?
So it was okay for that group, but
well, it's always the guy's fault.
But kill this group,
sure, because he seduced her.
Well, but it wasn't just that; it was just his image wasn't as clean as the other. You know, it wasn't. You know, and to me, honestly, and I'm not just saying it because I've heard a lot of Christian music, and I would have to say, and I will say this unashamedly, unequivocally, I think Michael English probably has the greatest voice of any Christian artist I've ever heard. The guy, or I want to say the boy can sing. I mean, he literally was unbelievable as a singer. Yeah. And he went through... It reminds me, I think we talked about this years ago when I first got saved. We got saved at this offshoot of Calvary Chapel. Right. Ken Gullickson came to El Paso from Calvary, founded the church. And we didn't have a church, so we started this Friday night. They started Friday night thing. And then we decided, well, we better have a Sunday service because we had all these young people that we were unchurched, a bunch of unchurched ruffians. And so when they announced they're having because I got saved and I'd go on Friday nights to this meeting, but I never went on Sunday. I didn't have a church to go to. Right. And so finally they announced we're going to start meeting on Sundays. Oh, yes, I have a church now. And so 25 of us got together in this little room that was probably about 25 by 30. And it grew to thousands later. But anyway, our Sunday school was Bob Mumford, Charles Simpson, Derek Prince. We would watch videos by these.
Struggling to find a leader, yes,
Yeah. So, but what's interesting, Bob Mumford did this teaching where he talked about And I'll never forget it. This is one of the things that I think Bob Mumford is probably, I always say but no. I would say one of the greatest teachings I ever had was Bob Mumford teaching about how Christians are, that, we talk about, we sing the song, Onward Christian Soldier. Mm-hmm. He said, but we're the only army that when our soldiers come back wounded from battle, we finish them off.
Yeah.
That we don't take them and try to bind them up and help them and heal them and, we'll finish them off and cast them out or whatever. And that's what I think happened with Michael English. I remember when Richard Roberts, and I think I've told this one before, this was in CCM magazine where he was meeting with his elders and he was going through the struggle with Patty Roberts. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about this pastor meeting with his elders, and he was talking about his dilemma. What do? I can't go on living with this person, but if I divorce her, the flock will never forgive me. What do I do? And I mean, it's a joke, so please understand. Mm-hmm. It's a joke, but there's some reality to it. Yeah. That one of the elders said, just kill her. He said, what? He said, yeah, kill her. They'll forgive you for murder, but they'll never forgive you for divorce. Yeah. And I remember reading that. This was back in the 80s when this was written, and I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. But strangely, there's a lot of truth to it. That we are more ready to forgive murderers than we are for divorcees or adulterers. There's certain sins that somebody gets up, he was a murderer and he has repented and done time or whatever, and we'll get up and let him give a testimony, and everyone will you'll have sisters crying and Lord, it's a miracle, it's wonderful, but somebody had a divorce, and we're suspicious of them for the rest of their lives, or we hold it against them forever. And I don't think that's how God intended it. Yeah. There are too many examples in Scripture, the woman at the well and others, that God does not intend for us to get divorced. Okay, let's just let me make that clear. I'm not excusing divorce, and there's too much of it.
Well, there's one other option. You, after you get a divorce, then have a very public response to an altar call and tell people you weren't actually a Christian until then. Because we'll forgive people's divorces and affairs if it was before they claimed Christ.
That's true. That's true too. I didn't even see that part of it. That is true. If you tell them I wasn't really saved, I wasn't really.
Because when Pat Robertson was running for president, and Pat became a very viable player in that campaign. Mm-hmm. And the media was all set with a gotcha at a press conference that says, we have a report of a woman saying that she had an affair with you, and he mentioned her name and all these things. And Pat Robertson said, oh, yes, and I'm sure there's other women who'll come forward too. In fact, my son here, he and my wife conceived him before we were married. I mean, he just did a tell-all. Right. And he said, look, I was an attorney, and I was in Wall Street and living a very jet-set life. I was the son of a U.S. senator, and I didn't know Jesus. And everything changed when I gave my life to Christ. And it turned into a powerful testimony. Wow, yeah, because he walked right through it. And that's the thing to do. In fact, when I counsel people...
Yeah, but wait. For the sake of our viewers and listeners, it has to be legit.
Yes.
Because right. It sounded like another excuse to just say, oh yeah, I wasn't really saved, but I'm really saved now.
But
you know what I mean? I just want to make that clear. Okay. Yeah. What you're saying is we're speaking of the reality of someone that truly wasn't saved.
Yeah.
And someone who is saved.
Right. Eddie, you and I came to Christ in the 70s.
Right.
Those were the days when your reputation was based on how dramatic your testimony of conversion
right.
Right. And it's sad.
Yeah, it was
it's superficial.
It was actually a status symbol of how big a sinner you were.
Yes.
I remember one time I was giving my testimony at a youth group. I think it was Young Life or Youth for Christ or something.
Yeah.
And I was talking about how, how much drugs I had done and how I had done this, and I was in the gang life and this and this, and everybody was, ooh, wow, yeah. And afterwards, I saw this kid. He was sitting in the corner, and he was just all down and depressed. And I went over to talk to him. I said, "What's the deal?" He says, "I don't know what to do. I can't handle this, because I've never done anything in my life.
Yeah.
I was a Christian kid, grew up in a Christian house, accepted the Lord when I was 6 and 7. Yeah. I've never done anything wrong. I feel like I'm unworthy. I don't feel like, because every week we have somebody come in here who was a worse sinner than the next one, and everybody makes a big deal, and I'm nothing. I've not done anything." Right. And man, it was like slap.
Yes.
It made me realize, man, maybe we're overplaying this.
Yeah. D.L. Moody, in his early days of street ministry in Chicago, was asked by a fellow believer about how the previous night's services went. And he said, well, we had 4.5 lives committed. And the guy laughed. He says, oh, so 4 adults and a child? He says, oh, no, 4 children and one whose life was half over. And it was like, you got to count it all but lost, as Paul said. Paul said because of his testimony, he is the least of the apostles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and you know what? The person giving the honest testimony, I said, you can't blame them for just telling the truth about what God delivered them from, but you have to blame the church for getting enamored by it.
Oh, yeah. And I had to tell the kid, I said, like I was at the time, I guess I was 22, but I remember this was like a 16-year-old kid. And I said, listen, I wish I could trade places with you and not have to deal with the memories and the things that I have to overcome in my mind because of what I know and what I've been through.
Yeah.
If I could just come back clean and not have this and walk with the Lord, I think I would be miles ahead.
Yeah.
So never feel bad about having lived a clean and spotless life. Rejoice that you've been spared that, because when you come out of that other background, a background of sin, it will follow you all the days of your life.
Yeah. So this friend of mine from Japuza that I just, met back up with, when we were in Chicago, when he wasn't putting on the festival, which kind of takes up a couple of months, he was one of the production members, graphic designers for Cornerstone magazine, which Japuza put out. And he talked to us before we left at the end of the festival. He said, get ready. Cornerstone's about to expose a pretty major individual, and it's coming out next month. We held off because we didn't want to be distracted by it while we're trying to put on this festival. And the next month, they exposed the lies of the life of Mike Warnke. Mike had just signed a book and album deal worth millions with Word Records. So as soon as it came out, Word Records trashed Cornerstone until the evidence was so overwhelming the Cornerstone, again, a word owned by a bunch of Jews, right? I don't know if they were believers or not. That's between them and God. But this is the marketing aspect of the music industry that we call Christian.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, Word Records originally was Christian owned and originated and everything. But what happened, they were bought out by ABC Records. Yeah. And then the ABC executives owned Word. And that's when, same with Sparrow I'm sorry, Warner. What was it called? Warner Alliance, and which is Warner Brothers. And then they bought it. Well, they didn't actually buy it. They actually formed a Christian label. And I think Sparrow got distribution through them. And then you had Diadem Records, which was Benson Diadem, and then they were bought by someone. But all of these ended up being, I think Capitol bought them. But anyway, all of these companies, these Christian labels, once the secular industry saw that there was gold in them, hills, they decided to buy them. Yeah. And then, of course, they exerted some pressure on them. Yeah. And now, that doesn't mean all the artists compromised. A lot of the artists said, no, we're not playing that game.
They were held captive.
Right, but said, I'm going to do my thing my way. You take it or leave it, and have remained true. And so we're not trying to say that all of your artists have compromised or whatever. No, but the industry is just not the industry that it was years ago. It's funny. Before we joined Youth with a Mission, in fact, the thing that caused us to join YWAM was I did a festival called the Zoe Festival back in, I'm sorry, not Zoe was in Germany. It was called Jesus Loves You El Paso. This was back in El Paso, Texas. This was in 1970. No, I'm sorry, it would have been 1980. It was 1980. And the El Paso Times sent a reporter. Yeah. And he spent about 2 hours with me during the whole festival every time he could, when I wasn't running around like a chicken with my head cut off trying to make everything was happening. He would ask me, and his big concern was that how long is this going to remain Christ-centered? This was a secular guy, and he was almost being prophetic, asking, when is money going to enter into this, and when is that going to become more important than the message and this and that? I mean, he was asking, and I was telling him at that time, maybe I was naive. I told him I don't think it will ever really take over, because I think the Christians will discern and figure out, and to an extent to keep it pure. It may veer, but I don't think they'll totally corrupt it.
Was this a camping festival?
No. This was just a 1 day.
Okay.
All day till like midnight.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We called those orgies, Christian music orgies, where there were so many artists, you'd rather take a month and go every fifth night to a new one, and just that, and absorb it for the next few days. Yeah. But I know what you're saying there. Yeah,
but that but that one really got me, because I've always been one to try to keep the price low for the people. Yeah. Same with insurance. In insurance, I'm always thinking, whether it's cars, clothes, food, entertainment, keep it reasonable for the people. Well, Dallas Holm was real popular back then. He was becoming popular. Yep. So I had this festival with all these name people. I think we had 10 name artists in this thing. And 1 month later, they were having a Dallas Holm concert. And the promoter was some new, one of these new national groups was putting it together. And they were charging twice as much as we were for the, and they outdrew our festival for just the one concert And I think that I think God used it to send me to the mission field, because I got so disgruntled with the whole Christian music audience.
Yeah, John Fisher said famously, actually in his column in CCM, he said, contemporary Christian music is not so much a move of God as it is a move of marketing. It was in the marketing that it became successful. And there are formulas. And, you've been in radio. You know how much radio is, what they taught me in business school. Advertising is not an expense, it's an investment. Mm-hmm. There's a return on that investment if you're smart.
Yeah, in fact, one of these young guys, my pastor's daughter's husband, he came up with this idea to start doing these skate parties a little later. And it's a really skate party, roller skating parties. And so, well, we'll try it. And it was amazing. It got so crowded. Yeah. The people couldn't skate anymore. I mean, it was like just this one big mass moving, and we finally had to do it, if you're under 18, you can skate. Everybody else had to sit down. If you're over 30, we had the girls only, guys, we had the different people could skate, but it was all to Christian music. We had all the, CCM music playing, but I mean,
so you're talking roller skate.
Roller skate, yeah.
Okay, not skateboard, not ice skate.
No, this was in a roller rink, roller skating rink.
Oh, yeah.
But the people had such a good time. And I mean, we were charging this is back in, again, 1980 or so. I mean, and we were charging I think it was at that time, $5 a head.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I rarely paid more than $2.
Yeah. But they didn't mind at all. And it was just packed. Kids with their little kids. I mean, everybody, I couldn't believe it, and I'm DJing this thing. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, we thank you all for putting up with us as we walk through the path of the past, the CCM. But anyway, I think it speaks to kind of some issues in the whole Christian world and what has happened.
We're cynical as can be, but we still love Jesus.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, too, I love the artists that I got to know. Yep. I got to know a lot of these guys on their first tour, and it's so amazing to see where they've ended up. I think of Steve Camp, who was one of the big early word artists. He
signed with Larry Norman first, Solid Rock, but Larry had to release him because he couldn't get distribution.
Yeah, because I met him. There was a tour Word did, and it had Steve Camp, Bob Farrell, and Andrew Culverwell. Oh, yes. The three of them came to our church together on one night, and it was a free concert, just, and they could sell albums. Yeah. And Steve Camp, he said, if you don't have any money, just take an album. He was giving it away. Yeah. Kind of like Keith Green did. And I remember Bob Farrell said, he's going to lose his shirt.
Steve Camp could afford to.
Well, yeah, but it was just funny. Bob said he's going to lose his shirt, and the two of them, it was funny. These two guys, and then Andrew was just like his own guy. He was just different. He was English guy.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, but Steve and I, we became friends after, and of course Bob and Jane, we became real good friends. In fact, we just stayed with them over Christmas. But Steve now, he's pastoring. He pastors.
That's neat.
In Palm Beach, Florida.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And so many of these guys, we've seen them come through these, and he's pretty hard. I mean, Steve is hardcore, and he's always been that way. Steve is a hardcore fundamentalist. Right. Christian pastor.
Steve became an orphan at an early age, but inherited quite a bit, and that's why I say he could afford to.
Right.
Steve was
right, but that doesn't have anything with his faith.
No, I mean,
Steve is. I just want to stick to that. Steve right now is. I mean, he really is, and he's fighting the fight. And I'm going to switch gears again a little bit. He's what bothers me, one of my peeves is the church that doesn't want to engage the world.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of those here in Tulsa. Mm-hmm. Okay. One that I attend even. Mm-hmm. And and it's one of my...
At least until tomorrow, he'll find out when we meet him at the door.
Well, I hope they do. I'm waiting for somebody to start it. But anyway, no, but it warms my heart, I guess, when I see pastors that are not afraid to engage the world. Because how can you, when Jesus says we're in the world, not of it, how can you think that you're doing anything when you want to be not of the world, but not in it? Mm-hmm. You're having no influence. You think in your mind somehow you're having an influence, but you're not. To me, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
You're playing games because you're getting people that can live a Sunday life or a Wednesday night life or whatever they have their small group, but then they go out back Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 or whatever they do in the evenings, and they have to engage in the real world where you're not involved at all, and you're not equipping them with real life situations. Mm-hmm. The early church, Jewish life, did not do that.
Right.
You still had to deal in the marketplace, right? Mm-hmm. When you've become a come ye church instead of a go ye church, and by go ye, it doesn't mean just give some invitations and get people to come on Sundays. It means talk to people where they are.
Yeah.
Engage. What did Paul do? Paul went out and preached and talked to the people as he was out on the streets.
Yeah, or on Mars Hill or wherever.
Wherever it is, you engage. You've got to engage.
Or in the prison cell or wherever.
Right, and if you can influence, and it gets me again to the issue where people I know get mad at me about the whole school thing, which we talked about last week. Mm-hmm. When we take our kids, and it's not about the kids. Mm-hmm. It's about we who essentially sentence everybody else's kids to be indoctrinated because we're no longer influencing what they're being taught. And we're so interested in protecting our kids. I mean, can you think about, that just hit me. I mean, to me, it's selfish in a way.
Well,
don't you think? Don't you?
It can be. And Eddie, here's where
this is a good one for you.
Back a little bit.
I know. I want to because you homeschool, right? You were in a homeschool group.
Yeah.
Okay. So see, this is where I do have a problem because I had 4 kids myself. Mm-hmm. They went to schools in Holland. Mm-hmm. They went to school in Germany. Mm-hmm. We had no opportunity to have a homeschool.
Okay.
Then we brought them here. Mm-hmm. They were in a Christian school, which I hate to say it, but the experience was not a good one.
Okay.
They went to a public school, and when they came through the public school, it was a better experience, even Christian-wise, than because they didn't lose their Christian faith in the public school.
Yeah.
They were able to be a greater influence in the public school than they were in the Christian school.
Yeah.
That's my whole argument. I mean, it's all about being an influence.
school to me, I mean, the duty of training up your children is a command God gives to parents. Mm-hmm. God doesn't give it to the public school system or private school system or anyone else. You as a parent may delegate as you feel led, and compelled. But I'll tell you, for my kids, every week we're down at Fairmont Terrace in the worst part of 61st and Peoria, the most crime-ridden neighborhood. And people all over recognize my kids and say hi. They built friendships. They did not isolate themselves from people in need and people who, they had an opportunity to be a positive influence on. But I have to say, Eddie, some of this, I back away from making a blanket judgment because every parent has to follow the leading of the Holy Spirit.
I agree.
And so, the principles you're talking about, I totally agree with. But how that plays out by decisions on whatever, whether it's school or clubs or playmates to play with, all those things. Every parent has to make decisions on the spot.
Sure. No, I understand. No, I agree with you totally. It's an individual, it's a freedom thing. If you feel that strongly about something, you can. I'm just saying, and again, it's not as much about the kids as it is the parents and what we have done by removing the salt from the earth and the school boards, the PTAs and everything. That's where we've done it. And see what I've seen happen with now homeschool, I think I see it a little differently than I do from the Christian school. Okay. Homeschool, I think, is a little different because you're putting yourself into it, and then you meet together later with other schools and other children and other families and stuff, so forth. And I think you can still be more engaged in civic things and other things. The Christian school thing becomes more of a subculture. It's become its entire subculture. And like I always said, when my kids go to public school and they see teachers and administrators and other kids messed up, and they say, man, I see these kids messed up. And I say, yeah, it's because they don't know Jesus. Mm-hmm. When they're at a Christian school, when they see teachers, administrators, and kids messed up, what do you tell them? It's a little harder to try to explain. And so, but it's just become this whole subculture, and Jesus did not create us to be a subculture. He created us to be an influence on our culture, I believe. So that's all I'm saying.
Yes. Listen, Eddie, I agree with you so much. In fact, now I'm going to really get more strident than you on it. What I see, you heard how critical and cynical I was about the Christian music labels in how they would compel a Christian that if you aren't listening to our music, you're sinning, right? And my friend Pat Peterson said, well, they were a secular group. Why? Because they're on a secular label.
Yeah.
Well, we live in the age of the mega church now, right? It's no longer a congregational form of government. You rarely see an adult Sunday school program. You don't see VBS, Vacation Bible School, or, the Christmas programs, or anything, because the flock doesn't really own the church. They attend it. They don't have an annual business meeting. Now, why am I saying all this? It becomes a marketing venture of a proprietorship. And what you saw in the 70s was churches getting involved in the daycare business because it was a lucrative venture to use a property that sat vacant Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Then you saw some of these religious organizations start a school because it was a lucrative business venture. And I don't believe the church really should be getting involved in business ventures. I'm kind of with Fred Price on this. You know, you want to have a rummage sale to benefit the church. You have the rummage sale. Fine. The church is not having a rummage sale. So now I want to get to, you know, I went to, at the time, the biggest mega church in Tulsa. I'm going to name it Church on the Move. This was in the mid-90s. We were part of a homeschool support group there that was put on by one of the associate pastors who homeschooled his kids. It was disbanded by force from the senior pastor the day he opened Lincoln Christian School, a subsidiary of Church on the Move. Why was it disbanded? There was no reason given, but it was obvious it was a marketing ploy because you don't want to encourage homeschooling. You want to encourage going to our Christian school. And yeah, excuse me, if you go to Church on the Move, God bless. I've had wonderful teaching there. I can say a whole bunch of good things, but I can't agree with that mindset of that business venture in that mindset for doing that.
Yeah,
excuse me, because they will guilt you into sending your kids to their Christian school because it's what God wants you to do. You have to train up your child in the way they should go, right? So you and I are both in agreement on that.
Well, to an extent, and I have to go back.
He wants to distance himself from me.
No. I don't want to paint that broad of a brush to say every
See, no, it's me painting the broad brush.
that every Christian school had that motive.
Right.
I don't think that was because I know, for example, with Jesus Chapel, it was a pure motive to give a Christian school. But and I know my pastor because he was a good friend. Now he and I would wrestle about different things on church planning and stuff like that. What his vision was and what mine was. But I know his motives were pure on wanting to start the Christian school, but I do believe he was responsible for killing the whole Jesus movement in our town because of starting Jesus Chapel School. Then you had a Word of Faith church start, and they started their school, and because as I said, so many of the kids, my wife's cousin got saved out of this lunchtime meeting that had hundreds of kids meeting at lunch in the stadium of the school. And the pastor's son was like the preacher, he's like a sophomore, junior in high school, preaching, teaching Bible at lunchtime, and they're singing worship songs. That used to be allowed for hundreds of kids to come at lunch in the stadium.
Yes,
can you imagine Union, Jenks, Owasso, Memorial, hundreds of kids at lunch, worshiping at lunch time in the stadiums? I mean, just imagine that. I mean, people would have fits. They'd be calling the police and somebody would go to jail for that today. But back in the 70s, that was still allowed. And I bet it was allowed in Tulsa, especially.
It's actually constitutionally protected.
Oh, no, I know. But
that's how we got the see you at the poll thing.
Right. But somebody would find something to grab because this was a daily thing. This wasn't like a once a year thing. I'm sure that somebody would have fits if this was happening.
Jinx has Trojans for Christ meets on campus every week.
Oh, well, maybe not then. Okay. But the neighbors will complain because they're singing and they're having to listen to this Jesus stuff every day or something.
Yeah, I think Jay Sekulow actually fought and won this at the Supreme Court for faith-based clubs to meet. The ruling came down that if your school is going to sponsor and allow clubs on campus, they have to allow student-led clubs that are faith-based.
Okay. So anyway, but that's how, my wife's cousin got saved through this when she was like a freshman in high school, and then caused her to bring my wife, who was already graduated from, she was in college, and her little sophomore cousin led her. Sophomore in high school leads the college girl to Jesus.
There you go. That's how.
I mean, that just shows how amazing.
And a child should lead them.
Yes, and that's how God is,
Yes,
but that's how my wife came to the Lord and how I met her, because her cousin brought her to one night and she came forward and gave me a wife. But anyway, but those are the things that used to happen. But then when those kids started attending the Christian school, it took them out of that, and that whole movement died. Yes. And it wasn't just the one school. It was like all the high schools all of a sudden had these worship lunch groups going, and it was like Jesus freak mania all over the city. It was a move of God. It was a revival going on with young people in the early 70s to mid 70s. And then as everything got organized and you got Christian schools and things, it just went away. And so that's what I'm saying. It just hurts me that I think we've removed the salt from the earth.
If I could say something, my first ministry appointment after finishing Bible school was I taught at a Christian school in Minneapolis, not 3 miles from where George Floyd died. And it was a little Pentecostal church. And it was not a moneymaker. Believe me, my income, I was under poverty level. But the church set it up as a ministry that if you're a supporting family in this church, there's no tuition. You pay for your books, meals, and activities. If you're not a member of this congregation, it was a very small tuition. I think came out to like $100 a month back in 1980. And we had, less than a dozen students from that category. And that actually is what funded my meager salary, But it was a ministry of the church. The Catholics used to, when the nuns ran the schools, it used to be a ministry of the church. And every family of that parish, unless they misbehaved, those kids had a place there, whether they could afford it or not.
Right.
Pat Buchanan, in his book, right from the beginning, his autobiography, he talked about his dad and, their family going to the Catholic school. And at one point, they moved him over to secular schools. And the priest came to their home. It was urgent. He had to visit them. He said, this is scandalous that an upstanding family in this church sends their kids to private school. And the dad said, I have 7 kids. I can't afford the tuition. That
is an issue.
And the priest said, we want your children, not your money. He said, money is not going to be, but a proud man who wants to pay the full recommended tuition.
Sure.
But that was the kind of thing, and we're no longer there. One day I was at coaching on the sideline, our NOAA varsity football team. We're playing Union's JV, last game of the year. And one of the officials on the sideline, because even their chain gang crew was paid officials. And I was getting to talk to the guy, just being friendly, and ends up, he's a single dad. The mom had left him and the kids years ago. And I asked, where do your kids go to school? He said, well, I was trying to get them at Bishop Kelly, but he said, sadly, things have changed from my generation. He said, I'm Roman Catholic, but I'm a single dad. I'm working on a Friday night here to come up with some extra money. And I begged the school administration for some kind of relief. They would not. He said, I went to the bishop. They would not. And he said, I told him then, your school will be filled with rich Protestants, and the Catholic families will go elsewhere.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of frustration because marketing and business has, just like the record labels. I mean, I was reading about Chuck Smith. He started Maranatha. Eventually, it was separated out from the church ministry, and eventually it was sold for a lucrative amount of money for whoever had stock in it. And what we've seen so often is the Christians will see a need, and they'll support some enterprise, and then it becomes successful, and then somebody sells out to the world and pockets the money for themselves, in the Christian community that actually paid for it is screwed over. We saw that with the best radio empire in Christian music. Used to be here in Tulsa. KCFO. And, Salem bought it and sold it for like 30 times what they paid for. And they spun it to us. They had Chip Olin come tell us about it. And he said, this is a great thing God is blessing, and Salem's going to be able to take this and reinvest in new opportunities. We never heard from Salem again. And we're supposed to rejoice with them and all the great things God's doing in their life. It's like the mother saying to the kids at a family meeting, God sent me to a better husband and I'm leaving, and you should be thankful that God has blessed me.
Sounds like the Democrats were behind this.
Yeah, see,
that's the kind of promise they make. Yeah.
This is what the flock deals with, because the flock no longer is a respected and honored stakeholder like we had in congregational.
But see, that's the problem too, though, then, Dave, because it has created a lack of trust in Christian leadership. Mm-hmm. Because we've seen so many of these things happen, mm-hmm. we no longer trust the ability. For example, I went to Melody Land mm-hmm. out there in California, and so they got into some financial issues. Now, I have to say, I think I told this last week about Ralph Wilkerson.
Yeah.
I believe he truly was a man of God, had a true vision, and tried to remain faithful. I never saw him try to. I think Ralph Wilkerson was a lot like Joel Osteen. Honestly cared for people, truly was a man of God, tried to, a servant of the Lord. Mm-hmm. He really, really was legit. But it got so big, it grew beyond him. Mm-hmm. That he had all these other people doing ministry and they were spending the church money, mm-hmm. and that wasn't his gift.
Yep.
His gift was preaching the gospel and spreading the word of God. Mm-hmm. He was not a businessman. Right. And so he had other people that shouldn't have been business people spending his money. It's like the dad whose kids like to spend the money and not make it,
Yeah, the accountability was gone.
Right. But so what he made the mistake and but he was sold on an idea of this group called Church Management Internet. You've heard of them.
Yes.
Yeah. They would come in and take care of all your financial issues and get you out of trouble. You just had to sign over the responsibility and the ownership to them, and they would run your church. Well, basically, they stole the church and killed it, is what they did.
Yeah.
And his wasn't the only one. They did that apparently to several churches.
You had one problem and you replaced it with another problem.
Right. It's like that story about in India where they had a problem with snakes. Or they had something, so they brought in. Oh no, it was, what was it? They brought something in, and they brought in cobras to kill the rats. Yeah, they had a rat problem, so they brought in cobras to kill the rats. But then, because they figured out that they could make money selling cobras, they started breeding cobras. The next thing you knew, you had a cobra problem.
Yeah.
And it was the old greed thing again. So that's kind of what happened. Same type of thing.
You know who paid for and built the Disney Channel? The partners of Christian Broadcasting Network.
Really?
It was the CBN channel. They had their own satellite. In space.
Right, I remember.
PTL had a satellite too, right? But they then rebranded it as the CBN Family Channel because they had 24/7 family-friendly programming.
Right.
Disney bought it off of Pat Robertson and off of CBN, and now there is no vestige of Christianity that I find on it, and it's the Christians pay for it. They built it, and then it's been used to undermine their values.
Yeah, see.
Yeah.
You got to watch what you're doing, as Larry Norman said.
Yes.
You got to watch what you're doing, don't you know?
Yeah.
You got to know who you're knowing.
I tell you, let's reset. It's the Ides of March. It is in the Ides of March. Politics is upon us. Man, primary season's basically over already.
Oh yeah, it's done. It's done. Trump and Biden Biden, we knew he clinched it, but Trump is finally
they've locked it,
put to rest
and now the next story everybody's watching is who's Robert Kennedy Jr. going to pick as a VP. Yeah,
and of course the question is, and my question is, was this legit? That he was going to get this certain quarterback from formerly Green Bay Packers and now the New York Jets.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that's a legitimate deal. I don't think
it's not announced, is it?
No, but the news is making a big. Here's what's really funny about it.
This is free media for Robert Kennedy.
Oh boy! Oh no, I know it is. But here's what's so crazy about it. What is his name? He's just a slime bucket. I think he's on MSNBC now. One of the announcers. He used to be at CNN. I can't think of it. Anyway, he just went on and trashed Robert Kennedy and Aaron Rodgers, bringing up stuff way back about COVID, his COVID. Aaron Rodgers was opposed to the COVID vaccine. He was an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah.
And as there are many of us that were and are anti-vaxxers, but they're making up stuff about Aaron Rodgers that are not true. And so, but they're trying to really push it. They're doing everything they can to kill any opposition to Joe Biden.
Right.
That's what they're trying to do. And so they feel now that they've got to essentially kill the possibility of Aaron
Brian
Rodgers.
Seltzer, is that who you're
No, not Brian Seltzer. I can't think of his name. But anyway, they've got to Jake Tapper.
Oh,
Jake Tapper, yeah. But they've got to kill it before it gets any traction. So they're after Aaron Rodgers because they realize that RFK could really do damage to Joe Biden. And Joe Biden without Aaron Rodgers, Joe Biden without RFK Jr. Is already damaged. Robert Kennedy Jr. is already a formidable opponent, and Biden is already hurting against. I think the latest national poll has Trump up by 5 or 6 points, and if they have him up by 5 or 6, he's probably up by 10. Because you know how the national polls are; they're always on.
Can I talk about just that concept of the media making a rush to create the narrative? This is a little bit leftover from last week. We had State of the Union on Thursday night, and 36 hours later, you and I are sitting here. What they did to Katie Britt, the Republican senator, to just actually make a mockery of her on Saturday Night Live. They cannot tolerate for a young soccer mom age suburban woman to have a conservative message. Because if you're a woman, you're supposed to be a leftist, don't you know? That's women's issues are all leftist issues, according to the media. But now they're trying to recharacterize Aaron Rodgers, much like they did with Donald Trump. I just wanted to bring that out. That's as a narrative.
Well, that's their game. But the beauty of it is they've done it so much, so often that it's starting not to work anymore.
Yeah.
It's almost like America has been vaccinated against the left's shenanigans.
Yeah.
They have done it to themselves.
Yeah.
They have so often and so much demonized any opposition to their stuff.
Yeah.
Lied basically so much that the people are just going la 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 yeah. We don't care anymore. We're not accepting your BS. And until these people wake up, plus there's an alternative media out there now. The true left, not left, I won't call them left, the truly, what would you call it? The truly liberal media and the truly liberal mind out there.
A classic liberal.
The free mind.
Yes, like you talked about
the
last
free
week.
press.
Right.
The free press that I talked about last week. It's rising.
Yeah, the FP.com is where you'll find it.
Right. They are rising and they say, sorry, but you guys are full of it.
Okay. So I've been watching over the last couple of years the pilgrimage of intellectual journey that Joe Rogan's been on. And it's pretty much hit critical mass now. Because this last week he referred to the woke left as a cult. And it has all the earmarkings of a cult.
Yeah, sure.
Where you have to accept completely the narrative of this, whoever it is that's supposed to be in charge of it.
Yeah, hive mind.
Yeah. And lest you be expelled and trashed, because you see what they do to people like Joe Rogan and others, that cancel culture, that all of a sudden you go from being a darling of pop culture like Aaron Rodgers, and now all of a sudden, you're, or Donald Trump.
Or RFK.
Yeah.
You name them. The list is long.
It's interesting how I'm watching certain things. There was a very interesting podcast episode came on a few nights ago, and it was Chris Cuomo with Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
And I found it really intriguing because Chris Cuomo is trying so hard to recast his image because he wants to save his career. Because he played the game at CNN. Remember, he's the one that said of the protests following George Floyd, he says, where is it written that protests have to be polite? This is the
Which is true. I mean, it's true. I mean, that is true. It's just he was on the wrong side, yeah.
Right. But that doesn't apply to January 6th.
Well, right. Exactly.
Their lack of politeness is an insurrection.
Right, exactly.
Worse than Pearl Harbor.
Well, see, what a lot of people forget, the week or two leading up to January 6th, there were riots in front of the White House and at the Capitol that are on video.
Yeah.
With them throwing chunks of cement, Molotov cocktails. I mean, they were throwing everything that the January 6th people never threw, but for some reason, that was okay. That was just protest. Whereas January 6th was an insurrection. So, come on. Your BS is just that.
Yeah, it's a double standard. But what I'm saying is...
Joe Rogan, you were talking about...
Yeah, and Dan Abrams, who started The Nation, another...
Oh, he started that.
Yeah. And his father was legacy
He's got money, I guess.
His father was at NBC forever,
okay.
So this guy is, he comes from...
Well, see, he started at CNBC, one of the money guys over at CNBC, and then he moved. Okay.
Right, yeah. Dan's moved around. He also had some side ventures like Live PD. That was Dan Abrams' production. But they're trying to reposition themselves, kind of ride that fence of where neither left nor right.
Yeah.
And right away, Chris Cuomo said, that's where I want to be. And the fact that he had a very, very friendly, jovial conversation with Tucker Carlson, neither of them insulting the other. rather self-effacing, because, Tucker, he comes across very self-effacing, a very, humble kind of,
right.
He would rather claim his own ignorance than have you pointed out. And, I mean, that's a Socratic
method, tactic.
Virtue.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was Plato said there is none wiser than Socrates, for he knows he's but a fool. And I've tried to really apply that in my life. Never assume you know what you don't know.
Right. If you ever have a hard time with that, let me know.
You know what? In my early days as a Christian, the first few months, I really did have some issues with pride. And my roommate and very close, trusted Christian mentor, who I'd known since we were like in middle school together, I told him, I said, I'm really struggling with pride. He goes, what do you got to be proud of? Oh, did it burn? But it was the best therapy.
You know what I had struggles with? Heresy. I would tell stuff that, like if I heard something, and I would take it and reinterpret it in my own fashion. I was instead of paraphrasing, I was paralying.
Yeah.
So I'd find out later, oh, you mean that's not true? I'd go back to tell somebody, I went and I just led this person to the Lord and I told him this and this and this. You told him what? I said, what? You mean that's not true? I thought that's what you said. I thought that's what I heard. No, this is what it really said.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll go back. But it was funny because in the end, when I went back, the person never heard it. Mm-hmm. The person never heard it the way I said it.
Yeah.
What they heard was, talk about the Holy Spirit working. The Holy Spirit somehow filtered it the right way, but I would sometimes say, oh no, God, please, I hope they heard it, but I was just so anxious, so full of vim and vigor to go preach the gospel that I was just saying stuff, especially, eschatological stuff, about Jesus coming back. And he's doing this and he's going to do this and this is going to happen and that's going to, and you're going to do this and oh my goodness. It's funny how the grace of God, and it's amazing. Many of those people, seriously, as far as I can think, everybody I know is still walking with the Lord, but anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
But for me, that humility and it's just something I've always appreciated when I see that virtue in people that are not so. You and I, we were talking a Facebook discussion about Kenneth Hagin, and I've had a few opportunities to interact. The guy's actually shy, very
senior.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The late Kenneth Hagin.
Yes,
right.
Like Kenneth Hagin.
Yeah, he's really shy now.
Yeah, because you've heard people try to twist. Walter Martin was doing it too, and John MacArthur and stuff.
That's what's interesting because when I first got introduced to Kenneth Hagin, all I heard was Kenneth Copeland and Seville and all these people talking about Brother Hagin. And then their brand of what they were saying, it took me a long time to find out that Kenneth Hagin never really taught what they said Kenneth Hagin was teaching.
Right.
It took a while before I learned that a lot of people, what they'll do, they'll take what they heard from a teacher, but it's not enough because they've got to add the new truth that God gave them.
Right. They're building upon.
But to give it legitimacy, they've got to go back to the original person. Right. And so I had to repent. And when I started actually studying more about Kenneth Hagin, I realized, well, wait a minute, this guy, I believe what he believes, and he's not, there's nothing that I've seen about this guy that is error. He's preaching the gospel and it's a positive gospel.
And I'm just telling you, he's been taken advantage of, and all this, and just to watch the guy continue to walk in love. That's more than anything what I learned in my years there is his example of how to walk in love.
You know who else is like that?
Huh?
To me?
Who?
Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever watch his messages?
Yeah. Now,
like,
see,
every now and then,
Kenneth Hagin was like an uncle to Joel Osteen. John, Joel's dad,
yeah.
and Hagin, I don't know if there were any two best friends than those two.
See, I'll listen to Joel Osteen, and I shake my head. I said, what are people listening to come up with these ideas about Joel Osteen?
Yeah.
Because the only thing he ever says is God loves you. I mean, it's the four spiritual laws squared. God loves you and has a wonderful plan for your life.
Yeah.
And when I look at my life, I think if you look at your life, God had a wonderful plan for my life. He loved me and has a wonderful plan for my life. And you know what? I accepted that.
Yeah.
And what? I've had a wonderful life.
Yeah.
And the people who are sitting there, as the scripture says about Paul, kicking against the pricks, they're making it hard.
Yeah.
And every time I try to fight against God, sometimes, I mean, it's amazing, Dave. I cannot tell you, like God gave me a revelation about faith, about the whole faith thing. When I first got saved, the second week I got saved, Kenneth Copeland came to town. This was in El Paso. And so these kids, hey, let's go see Kenneth Copeland. So we went and we listened to this Word of Faith, Name It, Claim It. And, and I'm sitting there confessing and trying to possess. And I tried this, and man, it just didn't work, and I was getting... And I used to have bad allergies, really bad. And I was asking God to just, heal my allergies, and they got worse, So anyway, but I couldn't. It just didn't work. Let's just put it didn't work. Okay, the name it, claim it, confess and possess, and all that. But it took me probably 30 years before I finally had a revelation that faith is not that teaching that you're supposed to continually confess.
Yeah.
Because that is like holding a weight up.
Yeah, you treat it as a formula.
But it's a weight.
Yes.
True faith is a cork.
Yeah.
And it was like all of a sudden it hit me. It's a cork because I will try not to believe like I'm holding it down, but yet it keeps popping up.
Well, the blessings of God.
It keeps springing up. Yeah. Like I cannot doubt. Because when you truly have faith in God, nothing can quench it. Yeah. And so for example, this is a strange, I had this diverticulitis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very upsetting in your digestive.
Yeah. Diverticulosis is when you have these pockets in your intestine. Diverticulitis is when it's inflamed, and if it gets bad enough, which I had a friend of our YMAM friend who just died from it. Oh. Because the pockets burst into holes. Yeah. And what happens, your waste goes into your body.
Oh, yeah.
And throughout. Well, anyway. So I have to be careful, but you have to be careful. But anyway, so one day I got it, and I'm laying there in the most extreme pain. It's like someone is stabbing you with a knife about this long, repeatedly, all over your stomach. And I'm just crying out to God. Seriously, I mean, it was bad. Let me just say it was bad. So I went to the urgent care, and they told me, well, we would really like to do, X-rays and or CT scans to see if you've burst or you're about to burst. So if we have to do surgery to move about 3 feet of your intestines, or we can just give you antibiotics and you pray that it goes away. I said, I'll just pray. So, and so he gave me the answer. I said, so will it be gone here this evening? Oh, no, it's going to take at least 24 hours before the pain. I said, oh, great. I said, okay. So I went home and I'm just, still just laying there. Seriously, I don't know if I've had, the only thing I could imagine it would be like is a woman in labor pains. The only difference is, women's labor pains are intermittent. Mm-hmm. This was continuing, but it literally felt, because it kept moving across like I'm being stabbed. So anyway, so I'm crying out to God, oh, Lord, help me. Lord, please help. And all of a sudden, when I used to go to the dentist, they were giving me the hydrocodone, which is called, what is it called now?
It's an opioid, but...
Yeah, but what is it called now? There's a new name. They changed the name of it.
Well, they've reformulated different things, but it's that whole class of opioid painkillers. Right,
but there's a new name for it. Anyway, those of you out there, you probably know the new name for it, but it's the same stuff, hydrocodone. And it's partially Tylenol mixed with something else.
Okay, what they used to call Tylenol 3. But again, they're always reformulated.
Well, no, but this is more than Tylenol 3. It's like... It's two different type of things, but anyway, but they gave it to me for my teeth when I go down. So, but I never use it because Tylenol or aspirin always took care of that, and I was fine. So I had like tons of this stuff.
Good.
And so I'm there just praying, and all of a sudden it came to me, take a hydrocodone. Mm-hmm. So what? That doesn't work. Try a hydrocodone. I went in, I said, okay. So I took a hydrocodone. In 30 minutes, boom, pain was totally gone. It's never worked for me on anything. Headaches, if I had a migraine, nothing. It totally took her. So for the next 24 hours till the other thing went down, till the antibiotics kicked in, that worked. But it was like in the midst of all that pain, and I felt like I might die, but I never gave up the faith. I tell the story because in the midst of all the pain and everything, I never gave up the faith and the hope that God had an answer.
Yeah.
And in the middle of it, just out of the blue, the idea, the voice of God, accept it or reject it. I don't know. All I know is it was impressed on my mind, take a hydrocodone.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to do it at first. I said, well, that doesn't work, and it just take a hydrocodone.
Right.
I took the hydrocodone, and
sure,
in 30 minutes, I was fine, and I never had the pain again.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm getting at is, like, even though I was in the middle of all that pain, I wasn't trying to say, the name it, claim it, or confess, like, I'm not in pain, or
mental assent kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not in pain. This is a lie, lies of the devil. That's not a lie. I'm really in pain.
Sure.
I'm really sick. And I always say to people, wait a minute. If Jesus is the healer, he can't heal you if you're not sick. Just right. Admit you're sick.
Yeah.
Admit you're hurting.
Yes.
Admit you're poor, that you don't have any money, that you need some help.
Yes. You got to admit your need.
Yeah, exactly. If you're telling people, do you need anything? No, I don't need anything because I'm the head, not the tail. I'm the beginning, not the end. I'm a this, or da. I said, oh, okay. See ya. Okay. I was going to give you $100, but since you don't need anything, see ya. That would be my response because you got to confess your need and be willing to accept. I'm hurting.
Yeah.
I need something. For God to heal you and meet your need, you have to have a need for God to meet that need.
Yep.
And the problem with that teaching is that they want to basically have you reject that you have a need. And that's the big fallacy.
Well, the incomplete teaching leads you to that. Biblical truths have balance like wings on a plane. And you need both sides to keep the plane flying straight. And so when you say that teaching, well, that imbalanced application without the other part that you filled in. It's like when I was a first-year Rhema student, I remember went home that summer. There's nobody more dangerous than a first-year Rhema student. Because you know a little, enough to be dangerous. But the reason Hagen quit giving people diplomas on the first year and said you had to go both years is they formed it so that in those 2 years you get that balance. It was a much different person after the second year.
Well, a whole lot of people that didn't get that balance, even after the second year. In fact, they got them more on the one wing.
You know, I was fully plugged in for the entire curriculum. And that's true on a lot of things. If you be patient, be disciplined, and read all the book, not just the parts you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, to me, is...
Well, you know, it really helped me. Like I said, when I first got saved, we didn't have church yet, but we used to have a Tuesday night Bible study at Jesus Chapel. Mm-hmm. And this young guy, he would, who ended up becoming our pastor, he would teach, but every now and then he would let one of the young guys teach on a Tuesday night. So one night this young guy got up and he taught, and he said, I have to confess to y'all, all week when I was asked to teach, what I've been doing is asking Lord to give me something that no one has ever found in the Bible before, mm-hmm. and to be able to teach it in a way no one else has ever taught it before, you know. And he says, and finally God told me, that ain't gonna happen. He said, so I'm going to just teach you what God has shown me here, what he did give me. And he just gave this great, I mean, it turned out to be a great teaching, but it wasn't anything new, but he was able to just teach what was there in a way we could all understand it. Yeah. And it was profound. But I've never forgotten that. And what I want to say is, so many of these teachings, so many of the things that get people into trouble are that they're trying to find something in the scripture that either isn't there or it's there, but they want to put something, a slant on it that's never been there, and to teach it in a way that only they have been able to discern, and you can't understand it without them.
Oh, there you go.
Because they are so wise, and it's this new revelation.
Yes, they want to copyright it, license it.
That God
so God wants to use it, he has to give them royalties.
God, yeah. This personal revelation, new revelation that he's given them, and that's the danger. Mm-hmm. That's when you get into danger.
I think that's
trouble.
what Scientology does.
Well, and there's a whole lot of what we call orthodoxy that's not orthodox. It's quackodoxy.
Yeah. Hey, I want to revisit something you touched on again early in the show. You went into further detail about your early Christian gatherings. This is a new Christian. I want to remind you, the scriptures do not say go to church. The scriptures say, forsake not the fellowshipping, the gathering yourselves together. Church is what you are, not what you do. And as our mutual friend David Fowler taught me, he said, what happened when the state took over the church, the Constantine model was put, the emperor, Roman Emperor Constantine formed the Orthodox Church in Constantinople, from which the Roman Catholic Church later split off. So, but I want to get back to when the early church met. It was a very informal thing, sometimes planned, sometimes not, but it was just getting together, and it wasn't always on Sunday morning, and it wasn't Mass. And in fact, he told Paul, when Paul said when he was going to, I think it was Ephesus, he said, hey, I'm coming through, I'm on my way back to Jerusalem. When it's there, when I'm there, I want to meet with you. And this was a special opportunity. And they stayed there all night long. So I want to revisit what you and I experienced in the 70s when the coffee house ministry became a very effective way of reaching young people. That was a gathering yourselves together. Mm-hmm. That, for God's purposes, was every bit, if not more, sacred than Sunday morning.
Yeah. Like where I got saved, my wife got saved, her cousin got saved, and almost everyone I know they're still, I mean, we're on Facebook together. I see them still, here, man, can you believe it, 50 years later, mm-hmm. I still see my friends that chapelites, we call us. Mm-hmm. We're still walking with the Lord.
Yeah.
But we all got saved on a Friday night.
Yes.
At this Friday night Jesus Chapel.
Yeah.
And it was just kids from all over the city coming together at St. Paul's Methodist Church. It was a Methodist church that let this group of hippies, is all we were. I mean, and here's what's funny. Most of them wouldn't be allowed into church today because a lot of the girls were wearing halter tops, tube tops, and shorts, guys in shorts, sandals, hair down to here, and tank tops and stuff, and sitting on the floor a lot in front of the altar, and then the pews, which was left. So, and here's what's funny. We did have a music group that would play, but they would do like one or two songs in the middle of everything. But in 2.5 hours, maybe 30 minutes would be this musical group playing. But the other 2 hours was nothing but worship songs. Mm-hmm. Oh, and you know what? Can you believe it, Dave? You're not going to believe this when I tell you. We didn't have overheads.
Oh, how did you, I mean.
I don't know how we did it. I don't know how after 2 times through.
But Scripture says let everything be done decently and in order.
And on a projector.
And if you don't have computer systems, you can't have order. Yeah.
But it's funny, he would say, we're learning a new song and follow me. And after 2 times through, everybody knew the song. I mean, I don't know how we could do that. Because now we'll do it 3 weeks with the songs up on the overhead, and we still don't know them.
Yeah, I mean,
without the overhead, you don't know the song. Yeah. I mean, it's just how our minds work because we become lazy in our minds that we don't take time to learn it. We're going to follow the
right. But for But
I still know all of those songs from the 70s. Yeah, I know every one of them.
Yeah. And so what happened there? As a young person coming to Christ in the 70s myself, it was that coffee house ministry that filled a void in a wholesome way. Because young people, they do something on a Friday or Saturday night.
Right.
And this became that alternative.
Yeah.
Most of those young people slept in Sunday morning. So if you're really going to reach these people, you're going to do it far more effectively on a Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah, although at a point, once we all got used to it, we were actually looking, because something inside us still had a hunger for an official Sunday service.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's weird how that works. So when they announced we're doing a Sunday service, we were all excited to do a Sunday service.
Yeah.
No, and our Sunday school was funny though. Our Sunday school was like a TV with a video player. That was a Sunday school, and then afterwards the pastor would preach, something like that.
Yeah, because a person who really, really is seeking God is always hungering for more.
Yeah.
What we would do on like Saturday night, we're all down at the coffee house. It opens at 8 and it closes at midnight. After the coffee house, we'd all go down to the pizza place, have a late night snack. Then all the guys would crash at my apartment, and we'd all go on Sunday morning to one of our churches, whichever one, and we would switch it up. And all of a sudden, the little Pentecostal church where I was at, all of a sudden there's, 14 college guys in the front row. in a congregation that rarely had more than 50.
I remember we would a bunch of us, we would all go to midnight mass on Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we just sit there just to go to midnight mass.
Well, you're night people.
Yeah, and we weren't allowed to take communion, and several say, can we go up there? Can we go up there? Say, well, yeah, but what you do, put your hands out when he says, body of Christ, just say amen and stick your tongue out.
Wow.
But they knew, the priest would know, these aren't Catholics here, because they'd go, amen, or something. But it was funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, the stuff we did in those days, it was crazy. And, and here we are, on midnight mass and still dressed like hippies.
Yes.
But a true even a priest, you could tell some of the ones that were really anointed, I guess you would say, they would be happy to see these kids come in, and hungry to seek the Lord. But
not Monsignor Kevaney at my parish.
well, yeah, see, that's the thing, that you have these certain priests that were so into the whole
It was 1972, and a gal shows up in a mini skirt that, boy, she dare not bend over. And I think she was like 15 years old, and she's up at the front to get communion, and Monsignor Kevaney, in as loud a voice as he could, said, "You come back dressed decently to receive the Lord's Supper." And the whole church heard it. And the next week there wasn't a mini skirt there. I mean,
it was a guy like that, a priest like that drove my wife away from the church.
Right.
She was like a sophomore, junior in high school, and she had allergies like me, and so she asked the girl next to her, for a Kleenex, and the priest was talking about immorality or something, and he stops and says, "You girls need to listen. This message is for you."
Yeah.
And it was like, just embarrassed them
Sure.
in front of the whole, and they said,
Yeah, made an example out of them.
They never came back. She never went back.
Yeah. Yeah. Judged and humiliated.
Yeah.
But no, Tommy Coombs, Crystal Lewis used to sing this altar call song, "Come Just As You Are." And that's how Christ accepts us, as we are.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, you need to, I mean, if you're going to do that, speak privately or have a, you can, there's other ways of doing that. Say, young ladies, we'd really like you to, and then if you don't want to come back, you don't have to, but yeah, there's ways of making that
This is good. Let's call it Lent, okay? We're focusing more on spiritual things today. That's our excuse.
Lent.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I gave up for Lent this year?
What?
Lent.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Okay, I've got a good one here. In Toronto, this is Canadian. The Canadians, oh my goodness, I just don't know what I want to do with the Canadians. I think in some way, they're not worse than the Chinese, but I think they're stupider than the Chinese. Let's put it, at least the Chinese are smart, but the Canadian, apparently they're having a problem with people stealing people's cars. Car theft is really a big problem there, and they're stealing them from people's homes and driveways. So a Toronto police officer suggested that residents leave their car keys by the front door to avoid a home invasion, seemingly to let criminals steal their vehicles if they break in and leave and avoid injuries.
Wow.
So in other words, don't put your car keys in your bedroom or someplace where a thief can't find them, because they'll break in and beat you up or kill you to get your car keys so they can steal your car. So just leave the keys by the door so they can break in and help themselves and take your car and leave. I mean, it reminds me of these stores that are telling people, like Ben and Jerry's or some of these other stores, where the employees try to stop criminals from robbing them, and so the employees are successful in stopping a robbery.
Yeah.
And then they get fired.
Yep.
That's what this reminds me of.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to stop crime, thwart crime, and stop the madness, these people are telling them, no, just go ahead and let them continue to do it so that they will continue doing it. Because what would you do if you're a criminal and you find out that all I have to do is go to a Starbucks, a Quick Trip? Let's say if I go to Quick Trip and I say, I want all the money in your cash. Oh, yeah, sure. Here, help yourself. Mm-hmm. Am I going to be inclined to not want to rob Quick Trip anymore? Or am I going to be inclined to help myself at the next Quick Trip and have them do the same thing? Or if I go into Quick Trip and a guy picks up a baseball bat and hits me over my head or hits Dave over the head, and am I going to go into another Quick Trip next time, or pulls out a gun on me? Mm-hmm. I may be inclined to, I don't know if this Quick Trip clerk has a gun.
Yeah.
I may get shot. It's not worth it for me to try to rob this.
That's right.
So it's all whack. It's whack. But anyway, a lot of them they're arresting have guns on them, and they're not toy guns. They're real guns. They're loaded, said the Toronto police. Well, hello. Sure. He said, they're breaking in your home to steal your car. They don't want anything else. Mm-hmm. So let them have it. Mm-hmm. Toronto police said in a Wednesday statement afterwards, they're concerned about an escalation in violence where all sorts of weapons and firearms are being used to steal vehicles, and that includes during home invasions. The statement said that while officers have always told public to prioritize their safety over their vehicle, there are other ways residents can protect their homes and vehicles other than just leaving keys at the door. So the higher-ups finally came in and corrected this guy's statement that he was doing it at this press conference. I mean, some of this stuff is so idiotic you can't even believe.
The next thing they're going to do is say, when police are responding to a crime scene and see it in progress, they're supposed to just stand there and say, stop, no, don't do that, stop, and just watch them do it while they tell them stop.
Right.
Because that's what they're telling the citizens to do.
Right. Yeah, or tell the bank, just have your money outside the vault so that, or don't close your safe, leave your safe open so the thief can go and get the money and nobody will get shot.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, this is just crazy stuff.
Well, as a retailer, I was told the family-owned business chain of stores, when they taught me how to close up at night, they said, now, take all the paper money out, leave the coins, because there's less than $20 in coins,
right,
and the time it takes us to sort it and all that, And they said, but leave the drawer open. They said, we would rather them not destroy a cash register worth $500 to get $20 out.
Right.
And said, just leave it in case we have a break.
Right, and if they see, they'll take whatever, and they'll realize there's no other money in there. Yeah.
Yeah, but see, that wasn't the government telling me I can't.
Well, yeah, and that was smart. If there's $20 in there, nobody, you don't care if you're going to lose 20 to save 500.
Yeah.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah. That makes sense. But this other stuff is just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's just asinine.
It is. I mean, it's totally.
Speaking of stupid, asinine things, I got a quick story out of my beloved Belgian homeland.
Okay.
Flemish politician Trace van Landenhoeve was sentenced to a year in prison. Guess what he did?
Oh yeah, I think I had that same one.
Okay, why don't you?
No, you go ahead.
Well,
it's your homeboy.
Yeah.
It's your homeboy.
He was on Newsmax this morning. He was interviewed. It was really interesting because he basically had this private chat group, and somebody else, I think it was more than one, posted up some memes that were defamatory.
Racist.
Okay, yeah.
Consider racist.
Whether it defames a race or a sex or whatever, it's defamatory.
Right, but they were considered racist.
Right. Yeah. One of their favorite protected classes.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So they sentenced him to a year in prison because, this is a quote, he should have done more to discourage posting those things. He didn't post them.
No.
And because this is exactly what Facebook is doing. They will shut down your Facebook group if you don't do more to discourage things that they consider offensive that they have to pull.
Yeah, but how do you? Yeah, but you can't control that. So, but see, here's the deal. Okay, here's the deal. So, what does that leave you open to?
Well, now you're responsible for what you do allow.
Well, no, but let's say I don't like you, and I don't like what you stand for. Mm-hmm. So, what do? I start posting derogatory posts on your Facebook page, so I get you shut down.
Right, but this is particularly groups, not somebody else's profile. But what Facebook has had me do several times in some of the Facebook groups, political ones, is if they take somebody's post, they tell you that you either have to remove that person from your group or turn on post approval, or they will shut down your group.
Right, but this one in Belgium, though, wasn't it just a person or people posting to this guy's page?
No, this was to a group chat, but it was a private group chat, according to the reports I've seen. And anyway, they did not say what was required. They just said he should have done more. Now, the people who actually posted it didn't get any prison time.
Right.
But he did.
Yeah. And you know why?
Because he was a threat politically.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the threat. The threat is not to whatever imaginary victim they've come up with. Mm-hmm. The real victim who is threatened is the left-wing politicians that are apparently running the country.
Right.
That's what the real. It's the WEF is what I'm going to blame it.
Well, and a number of political commentators and media people in politics have honestly, as much as admitted, if Trump wasn't running for re-election, none of this lawfare would have happened. Oh, yeah. There would have been no charges, not civilly, not criminally, none of it.
Right.
Well, it's just admission of it was motivated by politics. He's a threat, therefore we have to find things to make him suffer.
Well, let's say this. I wouldn't go as far as saying none of this would be taking place, because I believe that if it were DeSantis and DeSantis were running neck and neck or ahead, they would be pulling the same thing on him. Mm-hmm. They would be upset. They would be trying to find some other means of getting DeSantis.
Right.
And see, I think that's probably why a lot of people would prefer Trump hadn't run again, because they've got all of the. Now, here's what would be funny if in the end, towards the end, Trump pulled a psych. He says, "Psych, I'm giving it over to Ron DeSantis," and they don't have. They've spent all of their money, time, energy going after Trump, and all of a sudden he says, "I give all of my delegates to Ron DeSantis," and he has everybody vote for Ron DeSantis. I mean, can you imagine that? The Democrats would just have fits. They would just go nuts, because they would not have had time to foment an attack on Ron DeSantis. Would that not be funny? Yep. Would that not be funny? I mean, that everybody would say, "Whoa, we did not see that coming. We did not see that coming."
Yeah, and that's what something similar to that is why we have Mike Johnson as a speaker, because it was the old bait and switch thing that I don't know if it was Matt Gaetz or somebody else that pushed for, wait a minute, this person doesn't have support, therefore we are putting the next guy up. And it was Kevin McCarthy who said, no. And that's when everybody realized McCarthy was going out there sandbagging every proposal to have him replaced as speaker. Once they unseated him, he destroyed every other option. He just didn't have time
to get Johnson,
to go after Johnson. They just did it so quickly. And what do you know? Johnson, they had no problem getting him the needed votes. So that's
I think he's doing a good job. You keep seeing him being attacked from the right, it appears at times. But then I look at it and say, what are you upset about? He hasn't done anything. You know? Yeah. No, I agree. Hey, I've got another one here. Well, the story of the week actually is what I have.
Okay, before just quick thing, we had a technical issue. If you're back on YouTube live watching us, our feed somehow got interrupted, and I just got it restored on a new stream. So, anyway, those of you who stuck with us on Facebook Live, you've been running good today. But I always say, watch our podcast. I clean it up for that. Okay,
good. Boy, YouTube seems to have issues
I don't know.
every week.
It could be I clicked something I shouldn't have clicked.
Well, keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah, well.
Keep your hands to yourself.
I'm multitasking today.
The story of the last couple of weeks is Fanny.
Oh, she did.
Fanny.
Yeah.
So, what is it? I guess it was it yesterday or Thursday?
Yesterday,
was
the
it
judge
yesterday?
made a ruling.
Yeah. Our dear judge, see, I just, I'm disappointed. He's a Republican appointee, and it just makes me mad. Is all I can say, really. His name is what is his name? I thought I had his name here.
McAfee.
Is it McAfee? Yeah, McAfee. Yeah, you're right. But anyway, yeah, I don't have his phone name. I thought I had his phone name down here. But anyway, Judge McAfee, I don't know what he's doing. My title here is Fanny and Black Democrats are the most racist people in America. And this is taken from a post on Glenn Beck's site by the black commentator. Man, my mind all of a sudden, I've got too many things. This is that fire hose going through the pea brain here, the garden hose. What is his name? The used to be the sports commentator.
Keith Olbermann?
No, the black guy on Glenn Beck's site.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to waste your time. Anyway, this is from the Blaze, okay, and it's one of the. But anyway, he calls it Fannie Willis, the black Democrats are the most racist people in America, and it's speaking about what's going on. But anyway, basically, let me just put this down. Judge McAfee essentially gave Fannie Willis an option that either she could recuse herself or quit the case against Trump and all of the other Republicans that have been indicted for election interference, or she could fire the prosecutor.
Yep.
Well, we all knew what she's going to do because, I mean, that there was no option. She fires the prosecutor, okay?
Yeah.
On the deal. And because she's such a caring woman.
Yeah.
And everybody knows, even on MSNBC, if you can believe it, and CNN,
yeah,
on all those, they all said basically it's over.
Yeah.
Because she is so tarnished now that nobody's going to give a hoot what she says or thinks or does, because she's a hoe, basically.
Yeah, but Most women, when paying for a gigolo, use their own money, not the state's money.
Well, it depends on, most women don't have the state's money, right?
Right.
So,
but we found out just what her commitment is to this guy.
Yeah.
This was a tryst. This was one of the trappings of power that Fannie was enjoying.
Yeah.
Is she could hire a hunk of a guy and then you work out deals with him.
He doesn't seem like much of a hunk if she just cast him aside like that, and he seemed like just another a pool boy or something.
You know, Charlie Sheen said it. You don't pay a prostitute for sex, you pay them to leave afterwards. But she, you know.
And he left. He's gone.
He was fully paid everything he should expect to get. There was no commitment to him. She made him take the fall.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he knew it. He knew it going in. I mean, he knew that all along. Yeah. But anyway, leftist attorney and talk show host Robert Patillo is challenging McAfee for his seat. Mm-hmm. This is what is believed to be behind all of this. And so not booting Willis may provide Patillo with a fewer critique to level at Kemp
right.
appointee McAfee.
Because Fulton County is a left-wing county.
Right, in the heavily Democratic county.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's going to help him. I think he's still going to lose.
Okay.
Because, well, Republicans aren't going to support him. Mm-hmm. I don't think Republicans will support the guy now after he does this.
There's no way you can.
No, he just cut his own throat.
Yeah.
And so if he's afraid of losing to this guy Patillo, then he might as well just say so. I mean, I hate this. These people have decided to sell their souls for the hope to be politically, instead of doing what's right and taking whatever the outcome may be, they decide, well, I'm going to play politics here and try to, because for the greater good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no greater good. This is not for the greater good.
Yes.
And this is ridiculous. And so now the only thing is, so now Fannie will continue. She's got to continue to bring her case. I don't know. See, I'm still trying to figure out this whole deal. Because Trump, if the jury, his case has not gone, still hadn't gone to any jury, has it?
Right.
So
it hasn't been litigated yet.
Right, it hasn't even been litigated. They've been wrestling with this, and so after this, they have to get, I guess, a new prosecutor.
No,
because she's the DA, and the other guy was the prosecutor.
The prosecution is still under the DA's team,
right? But they've got to get a new prosecutor.
Well, yeah, but that's an in-house thing, and a lot of times in cases they will send one attorney up to courtroom one day and another the next day, as long as they're part of the team that are presented to the judge as the prosecution team.
Right, but as I understand it, it's going to take them a minute to get that still
in-house
sorted
within
out.
the
Right.
DA's office. Yeah.
And then they've still got to select a jury and do it. So
right.
They don't think it's going to happen before the election.
Yes, and then last night a whole nother bomb just hit.
Drop.
All right. Governor Kemp has just signed a bill into law. It was a bill they signed into law last year that formed a commission that was oversight over DAs. It's something we need in Oklahoma badly. But they could sanction a DA and even have them removed from office. Last year's bill said that whatever that commission does is subject to the review of the state Supreme Court. Well, the state Supreme Court last year threw out the law. And it had to do with the Supreme Court being involved in it. So last night, the same bill was passed, but it left out that Supreme Court oversight. Now they have no say in it. Now, the Supreme Court could, under emergency action, put a stay or whatever, but then they would be looking like they're playing politics. So, here's what it says. Briefly, it says it'll be this bill creating the Prosecuting Attorney's Qualifications Commission, which could discipline and remove particular far-left prosecutors who make their communities less safe. And so, anyway, the Supreme Court had said it had grave doubts it could regulate the duties of district attorney besides the practice of law. Because, keep in mind, they kind of oversee the bar, which the Bar Association has kind of been that in-house, non-government disciplinary faction, which is corrupt as can be.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
and should not have monopoly.
No, you can't. No, you should not.
So, anyway, this is the thing that could happen is, especially if the current legislature makes all these appointments and whoever they put in place comes to consensus that this woman has done things that are beyond ethics and show a bias and show, dishonesty, all kinds of things, and say, we want to remove her.
Basically
office.
Impeach her. Yeah.
It really would be. I mean, I don't know what the state law is there about DAs, whether or not they can be impeached. I know judges, including Supreme Court justices, can be impeached before the legislature. Right. So anyway, that's a late-breaking thing just in the last 24 hours.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's crazy, crazy stuff. It's what's he saying? It's great to be alive.
Yeah.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah.
It's
we've never had anything like this.
No, it's America, what do we call it? This experiment called America is just amazing. Hey, NBC's news attack on right-wing influencers over claims about Haitian cannibalism is kneecapped by stunning admission. So, are you aware of this?
Yeah.
That there's
rioting going on in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, the capital.
Right. Well,
and these gangs
country,
that are controlling the streets, they're said to be involved in cannibalism.
Right.
That's much I've heard.
Okay. Yeah. So, NBC News apparently wanted to rehabilitate the gangsters' reputation this week, or at the very least kill the notion that those otherwise keen to burn people alive and stack bodies in the streets like cordwood might be cannibals. So they wanted to rehabilitate them to say they do this other stuff, but at least they're not cannibals. We don't care if they're burning people alive and stacking their bodies like cordwood, but at least they're not cannibals. After all, the threat of cannibal gangs might engender a desire among Americans to prevent migrants from Haiti from coming illegally to the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't care if they're just indiscriminately killing people and stacking their bodies, but we don't want cannibals. We got to draw the line somewhere.
Yes.
We draw the line at
we do have ethics.
Yeah, we have ethics. We draw the line at cannibalism. Oh, my goodness. Ingram, who's the writer of this, the cruelty of Haitian gang leaders is not in dispute, nor the widespread killing in the country during the years-long political crisis. But the false claims about widespread cannibalism goes much further in trying to paint the whole Caribbean nation as barbarous.
Yeah.
So NBC, this writer is trying to say that, well, you're going a little too far by trying to paint the whole country as barbarians or barbaric. Have you seen the videos of what's going on? It's just crazy. But just 4 paragraphs into the article, the same writer states, he admitted, that the accusations of cannibalism were actually grounded in fact. Yeah. So this is what's so weird. It happens in the New York Times, on NBC, ABC, CBS. they always try to discredit, and then if you read down into the body, then they actually admit what they just said is not true,
below
which is
the fold.
weird. Yeah, below the fold. Yeah, and it says it's grounded in fact on what experts say was likely intimidation tactic from select gang members, because they have actual footage that they've seen where it actually shows them eating human flesh. It shows them eating people, So I understand what NBC is trying to do. They always try to do this, as Archie Bunker used to call them, bleeding heart liberals. What they're trying to do is get people to not paint a broad stroke that all Haitians, especially since they're black, all Haitians are cannibals, right? Well, nobody says they're all cannibals. Obviously, they're not all cannibals. But you don't have a problem saying that all Christian conservatives are racists. That's what's so funny. They don't have any problem in trying to paint conservatives with a broad stroke, right? They never have a problem with that. If you were at on January 6th supporting Donald Trump, you were a insurrectionist. You're a right-wing conservative agitator. You're fighting against the democracy of America, all of this crap that they try to put. They don't have a problem with painting the broad stroke there.
Yeah.
But don't mention cannibalism, or don't call the people coming in from these countries, as Donald Trump called them, S-hole countries. Don't do that, because then, you're disparaging these countries. These people, they obviously don't read their own stuff.
Right.
They don't have any filters. They don't think before they write. They just have this single track mind. Anything anti-right, pro-left, that's what we're going to do.
Right, yeah. What they say of their political opponents is whatever the most extreme radicals do, you're all guilty of. But then they say, no, that's not the model we should choose when some weirdo on the left does something that we don't approve. Don't judge us all by that.
Yeah.
It's a double standard.
Oh, yeah, we've got illegal aliens all over America committing crimes, a lot of sex crimes going on, rapes, some murders, this and that. But you can't mention it. We can't talk about it. We don't want to call them. We don't want to say that it's been done by illegal immigrants, particularly from Venezuela or a certain country, because we don't want to disparage the immigrant.
Yeah. So just for setting here, the idea that there would be cannibals in the Caribbean islands is so well established. One of the first classic books I read, Robinson Crusoe, one of the early scenes is he's watching from high up on a hill as a bunch of prisoners are taken by another tribe to the island he's on for the sake of an execution and cannibalism. And, he said it could easily have the battle gone the other way, and the other guys face the same fate. But it was part of the barbaric nature of that tribalism that you and I have condemned for so long, and to say it wouldn't still have some adherence if they were empowered to do it in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I believe it's a cursed nation. It is truly a cursed nation. They can't get it together. Here's what's interesting. A lot of people don't know, and I didn't know for a long time, that Haiti is not an island by itself.
Thank you. I was going to go to that.
That it shares the island with the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
The Dominican Republic is totally the opposite.
Yes.
In fact, I saw a movie called Spoiled. Did you ever see that? It's a video. There was a guy that when I was at KFAQ, a guy came in, they were showing it at Cinemark, and he wanted to promote it, so he came on the show, and he it's out on video. You can probably see it on YouTube. Spoiled, SPOIL, but it was like a little SP and then a big OIL for oil, and then a little ED, right? And basically it was a documentary done showing what the environmentalist movement was not telling you, and how it was such a fake movement. It was telling you behind the scenes what's going on. But anyway, something that always stood out, it showed an aerial photograph of the island that Haiti and the Dominican Republic share.
Yeah.
And what happened, Haiti, somehow, for some reason, I don't know, I can't remember now why, but for some reason, they cut their oil. They weren't using oil for energy or something. So what happened, the people started burning wood. And because of that, they started chopping down all the trees and everything with wood to burn for firewood.
Yeah.
And so it shows from above the island, and the half of it that's the Dominican Republic is all lush and green jungle.
Yep.
But the Haiti part is nothing but dirt.
Wow.
And it said the problem with that now is that because all of the trees and vegetation have been taken away, erosion is set in, so there's no topsoil, and there's nothing for vegetation to take root any longer. So pretty much they're screwed. They're not only spoiled, but they're screwed because they can't now plant any vegetation on that side of the island. So you've got like a rock on one half and then green vegetation on the other half. And so the Haiti part, and that's probably it. And so this has caused it to become a barren, primitive land.
Yeah, you see a little bit of like brush and underbrush kind of things on the Haiti side, but much deeper, darker. I'm pulling up Google Maps satellite view, and it is. Initially it looked like, no, it's both green, a little bit lighter shade. Well, you zoom in and you can see, it truly forestry doesn't exist like it did.
No, there's nothing.
So
it's a good. If you get a chance, look up Spoiled.
Yeah,
and it shows the hoax of in Pennsylvania. It shows the fracking in Pennsylvania, and where they were talking about when the people were turning their water on, that they could light a match and the water would catch fire. Yeah. I don't know if you ever saw that. Well, yeah, they were saying because they said there's this oil in the groundwater.
Wow,
but they said that's everywhere. That's all over. It's just gases that get
natural gas
that gets caught in underground.
Yeah, but
you can have that anywhere and everywhere that happens.
So I had some friends. Our family, my wife and I, had friends that were Rhema students right after us, and they ended up doing missionary work in Haiti. And I learned a lot about it. But then when I was coaching homeschool tennis, one of our tennis players, she went over to Dominican Republic with YWAM. In fact, she's the one that convinced my middle son to go with YWAM. Well, while she was in Dominican Republic, she met her husband there, and got to know him. And I compared notes on what the mission work is like. Completely stark difference, because it was like in Haiti, they were living in the slums and trying, because everybody there lived a very dire life. I mean, there was it's a little drainage coming out of your house with all the sewer is out exposed, and they're living in shanties, and it's just horrible. What I have heard alleged, but I want to look into more, was some people are really blaming the Clinton Foundation because they're claiming so much of their money is being spent on improving the lives of the Haitians. The Clintons have known to be people that take people out of power.
Well, wait a minute. You say the Clinton Foundation money is being spent on the Haitians or not being spent on the Haitians?
The report I've heard is the money is being spent in Haiti, but I'm not finding out how it's being spent.
Yeah, because the reports I've heard is that it's being collected for the people in Haiti, but it's not getting to the people of Haiti.
Yeah.
It's being diverted, or it's paying the Clintons, basically.
Yeah, much like Ceausescu in Romania back during the Iron Curtain days, you know, he accepted a big shipment of Bibles. We didn't know, but it was being used for toilet paper. You know.
Oh, man.
You know, so on paper it looked like, oh, what do you know? They're open to the gospel. They ran out of toilet paper, you know. So, but you got to watch these things.
Sure.
Listen,
It
was while Hillary was our Secretary of State in the Obama years that the entire Arab Spring phenomena took place.
Yeah, sure.
And it was the toppling of governments, supplanting them, and then picking, you know, and choosing who's going to be next in power. And it definitely, you know, backfired on us because, I mean, look at the hellhole that Libya is today.
Yeah, all around, I guarantee you what happened is every one of these countries was enriching Obama, Clinton's, and Biden's, and their pet projects and friends and everything like that. And somebody wasn't paying attention or watching, and that's what's going on. And nobody really cared. And it's so funny to me that the difference in Democrats and Republicans, Republican rank and file people, we keep an eye on our people.
Yeah.
Democrats don't care. As long as you make abortion freely accessible, as long as you allow us to make sex change readily available and free to everybody, and allow sexual freedom in general, like, you know, like half of the military now, let's put it this way, the leadership of the military right now is in the hands of gay people. I think if you go to the Pentagon, I would be willing to bet that 40 to 50% of the staff in the Pentagon is homosexual, okay, because they've placed themselves and their people in. So even if Trump wins, all of the chief offices in the military, in intelligence, and all of this is one area that I have to give it to the gay community and the leftists. They've been strategic and smart in placing their people in those strategic areas.
Yes, through HR departments.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
I am good. I've got a meeting to get to.
Yeah, but that's pretty much all I have. I'm sure we're missing something.
I do.
Huge.
Just, you know, Eddie, it's somehow I'm following college basketball more than you are.
Oh, wait. Nathan Dahm and Dusky Devers.
Yeah, let's talk about Nathan Dahm. As he's been a guest multiple times on our show. In the Senate, he and the
and we've gone after Nathan. We have some issues with Nathan, but he's not always wrong.
No, and what's happened is the dirty nastiness of the trappings of power, and I'm going to name him Greg Treat, got elected pro temp of the Senate, and then he consolidated the powers that normally are voted on by the Republican conference. He made those all appointments of the leader. And he froze Nathan out. Well, that wasn't enough. This year, he decided he was not going to hear a single Nathan Dahm bill that made it to the House floor. Wasn't going to be brought up. So Nathan last night, being the deadline for bills to get out of the originating house, there's pass a floor vote. There are about a dozen bills left, and Nathan Dahm decided to use his filibuster power. And he went on speaking all afternoon, all evening, until the clock struck midnight, and it was declared past deadline. And about a dozen bills that were other people's bills did not get heard. And Nathan Dahm is not apologizing for it. And this was Thursday night, Friday morning. So I'm sure we'll have Nathan in again sometime, and we'll have to get the story from him.
Now, Treat is leaving, right, that office?
He is termed out at the end of this year.
And didn't we say he's got somebody that he's picked to be his successor?
Greg McCourtney. I've had limited dealings with Greg. Greg is from the Eides area. My understanding, he has a history as a professional in the healthcare industry. I don't want to get him.
That's not good.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's, the other option.
Here, let me say this. Here, it depends on what area of healthcare. See, what you don't want, what I'm finding, there are two areas of healthcare. You've got independent agents, and then you've got agents that work for these larger groups, healthcare groups, pension plans that provide healthcare for corporations and companies. So if you work for a company, they will provide the health care plan for your entire company and group plans. I found that those who work for those groups tend to get along with the Democrat plan.
According to LinkedIn, Greg McCourtney lists that he is the president and founder of a home health care provider.
A home health care provider.
Home nursing care. So that doesn't mean he actually does it.
Right.
It means that he's got people, and he collects Medicaid and other insurance and stuff.
Right.
So anyway, yeah. So we can get more information.
Yeah. But I would rather see somebody else personally.
Yeah. I have a problem with, there are certain things according to our Constitution where a member of the legislature has to abstain from votes that impact his concerns.
Right.
And yet you see them voting all the time on healthcare things. And, remember what we just got done doing to Terry O'Donnell. He faced a criminal indictment for proposing a bill that would impact how TAG agencies operate in the state. They are contractors. His family owns a TAG agency, or his wife's family. And, the attorney general got mad at him about something else and decided to take punishment out on him through that indictment. Now, since then, our current attorney general, Gentner Drummond, through that said that was politically motivated, and it was a corruption of government, judicial power. But here we have this selective enforcement in that, but yet all the people in healthcare and education, they have no problem with it.
Right.
I mean, David Bullard, his wife is, he was the other option to McCourtney that people like Dom supported. But his wife is a public school principal. So he should not be voting on things involving funding of schools.
Right.
See, so it's just such a hypocrisy. So that's the other thing I have. I got one more thing. I've been following basketball.
You had to get that. I was waiting to see. You had to get that.
I saw the most remarkable thing in the last 48 hours. Of the top 50 in the country, men's basketball, most of them went down to defeat in the last 48 hours.
A lot of them did.
Yeah, in conference tournaments. Now, that's not to say their season's over.
Right. The Big 12, fortunately, they did not. Houston and Iowa State.
Yeah,
remain.
those are the top two.
Those are the top two.
And the top two seeds.
North Carolina is still in there. They're going to the final.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But in a lot of the other conferences.
Yeah. 30 of the top 50 went down to defeat. Right. Now, some of those is because they were playing a higher seed. But most of them were upsets.
Yeah.
It was incredible. About half of the top 10 went down.
Yeah, some of them lost to teams that were just like true upsets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And some of them, gosh, 20, 30 points.
Yeah, I know. They weren't even close.
Right now, the top 3 in the SEC went down to defeat. Mm-hmm. Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, gone. Auburn is the highest ranked.
Right, but those 3 will still make it into the tournament.
They will.
Right. And looks like OU's on the bubble.
Yes. OU is high 40s ranked. And typically, if you're not top 48, you're not going to get in because some of those are just, mandatory, seeds to, conferences that just don't belong there. Siena people may think they're fine, but, they're one of those. Right. Or Princeton, Now, for Oklahoma, as a state, we have 4 teams that have some legacy. But other than maybe an at-large that, for OU that probably will lose the first round,
depends on how tough the Big 12 was. Yeah. They might.
Other than that, Tulsa's season's over.
Yeah.
ORU's season's over.
Yeah.
And OSU fired their coach yesterday.
Yeah. Which I think they should have. I mean, honestly, somebody was saying what a great man he was, how good he is. Yeah, that's good. But in the end, you got to win. Mm-hmm. You got to win. And that's all it's about. I mean, I'm sorry, he's a good man, but you got to win. They say he's a great recruiter and a good guy, but you got to win. If you're a good recruiter, you should be winning, right? So, hey, I've got one more thing. Caitlin, what's her name? The best female player in America. She's at Iowa, the young lady at Iowa.
Clark.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark. We talked about her last year, remember? She broke Pistol Pete Maravich's record. They made a big thing. Now, listen, I love Caitlin Clark. She's a hero to me. Seriously, I think she's wonderful. But they're making a big thing of her breaking Pistol Pete Maravich's free throw record or scoring record.
A bunch of records.
Yeah. I want a reality check, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Caitlin, as great as you are, or to those as great as Caitlin Clark is, Caitlin did in 4 years what Pete did in 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Reality check. Okay. He did it in 3 years. You did it in 4. Okay. So, you did it against girls. He did it against guys. So.
Right.
Let's get real here. Okay. Let's get real.
She dominated girls more than he dominated guys. So you're comparing apples and oranges.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if she dominated him more because she dominated him in 4 years where he dominated him in 3.
See, that's yet another point.
Right. So
and
that's
then
why
how many games? Let's look at how many actual games the two played.
Right. Exactly. And so, I just want to keep things in perspective because there's such a push to make women equal to men where there's no need for it. Why can't we just appreciate women's sports for what it is?
Right.
It's like trying to equate golf with football.
Yeah.
Okay? Golf is not football. Tennis is not football. Track and field is not horse racing. Okay? They're 2 different entities. I can appreciate Formula One racing. I love watching Formula One. I love the Kentucky Derby. I never try to compare one with the other. I never try to compare the Formula One guys with the Kentucky Derby riders.
Right. Or to say that Martina Navratilova is better than Djokovic.
Exactly.
if you put those two head to head, it's not even close.
No, soccer players.
Right.
The girls, they finally quit because they realized that to do it, the jig is up, as they say. They try to say girls are equal to guys in soccer, but what people don't realize is that the U.S. Olympic soccer team, when they train, did I tell you this? Did we talk about this before?
Yeah, they train against high school boys.
Yeah, right? Under 16.
Yeah.
Boys, not men.
Right.
So, you just can't compare them, and they keep trying.
Right, and
why?
that's not to say
why it's unnecessary. Appreciate one. I love why. Actually, I enjoy watching women's basketball, the women's NBA, NCAA. I enjoy watching that more than I am enjoying the men's, because these girls are good. I mean, they can hit that.
Oh, yeah.
Especially a 3-point shot. I mean, these girls can shoot. Yeah. They are good, and they got moves. So I enjoy watching the sport. But don't try to make me think that Caitlin Clark, as good as she is as good as Pistol Pete was.
Yeah, I will tell you, women's softball is way more fun to watch than men's baseball.
It is.
It is absolutely electrifying.
It is.
And what the OU women's softball team do is just, I mean, we are blessed to be able to be witnesses of it.
Yeah, so much. I love watching girls track, women's track. I love watching them run. So I hate that they keep trying to elevate these things into girls soccer. I love watching women's soccer. But to try to elevate it with the guy, it's a different sport. There's a different
No, you say you love watching it. Not like Rush Limbaugh likes watching the women's movement. He said, Rush always says, especially from behind.
From behind, I know.
Okay.
All right. On that note,
my mind's in the gutter today.
On that note, I think we had better call it a day. Hey guys, we spent a lot of time talking theology, and
we started spiritual.
We started spiritually today. Hey, God bless everybody. See you next week. Take care.